What I will say too is I think that this is a big gem for me. When I first started, I actually gave half of my commission away to another agent because I didn't know how to take on a listing. So I said, look, I have a listing, I have the contract signed. I just want you to help guide me through everything.
Jayden Kennedy, how you doing today?
Good, how are you?
I am great. Listen, thanks very much for being here today. Man, I'm excited to do this with you again. The first one,
Yes.
didn't record, the video didn't record. We got the audio. So this time we've got the video that's going to happen.
Yes, thank you so much for having me again.
Yeah, listen, so I want to dive into who you are, what you've achieved. You had an incredible 2025. And so let's talk about that and who you are. And for anybody who's listening who doesn't know, Jayden Kennedy.
So my name is Jayden Kennedy. I am a retired professional volleyball player turned realtor.
Okay.
I just hit my 5th year in the business. And in 2025, I did have, a great year, which is really exciting. Thank God.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I was number 16, I believe, in units across Canada for Keller Williams.
That's incredible.
Thank you. And then number 3 for GCI. So I did a lot of deals. I think I did between, like 48 deals last year on my own. So I might look to expand soon. But yeah, real estate's been really good to me.
Awesome. So I want to touch on that as well, too, because I think we talked about this a couple of years ago, but if you're going to build a team or not. So let's hold that for now because you're probably getting into that, right?
Yes.
Because you realize you can't do it all, right? And I've been there where I've done 40 plus deals, and it's a lot. Like you're moving, you're hustling, And so let's touch on that. Like, how were you able to do something like that? Because getting to that many deals, what was the stats that just recently came out that 50+% of realtors did 0 transactions. So it's not an easy game to get into. So if a beginning realtor is listening to this, what would you say is the first thing that they should really try to implement in their business? Because a lot of times they get caught up in just being busy, but that doesn't sell real estate. Real estate,
exactly. So number 1 is going to be lead gen, right? There's a lot of agents in the business who aren't doing business, but that's because they're not getting clients. So how are you going to get clients? So when I first started, I knew before even getting my license, I said, let me start putting content out there. Now we do have RICO, so we do have certain rules we have to abide by. But I did start letting everyone know that I'm going to become a realtor and that I am going to be someone who provides value. So I think a mistake that a lot of first-time agents make is that they're a secret agent. People don't know that they help people buy and sell real estate.
Right.
So I would say get on camera and start to give value to people to make sure that you are the go-to person in their mind for anything when it comes to real estate.
Okay. And how do they do that? Like, should they be doing it more online, social media, offline, referrals? Like, what should they focus on?
That's a great question. So when I first started, I tried a bunch of things. I did the door knocking thing, didn't work for me. Did the cold calling, didn't work for me. So I found that social media worked the best. But I also did social media consistently for about 1.5 years before I really started to see some traction. So I think a lot of new agents, like 87% of agents leave the industry within the first 5 years. And that's because they're not consistent enough. I feel like they put in the work, but they don't understand the concept of delayed gratification. Get your reps in and eventually it will come to fruition. So I would say whatever it is that you try, take at least 7 or 8 months of consistency in order to see if it actually works for you or not.
Right.
So for example, for me, what I did is I actually created a Facebook group for my neighborhood and I went out and gave flyers to everyone in the neighborhood saying, hey, look, we don't have a community group. If we're having garage sales, if we want to do get-togethers, movie nights, I created a platform for us to, get closer as a community.
Right.
Now, my biggest pain point was that people didn't really take me seriously. I was knocking on the doors was giving out these flyers and people thought that I was just soliciting business, right? So that didn't necessarily work for me, but it might work for other people, which is why I was like, let me go on social media, because if I can put out content that's quality enough, I can start to attract people, and the people who are consuming my content actually want to hear from me. Whereas when I was door knocking, I knew that I had value to provide, but they didn't want to even hear me out. So I said, okay, let me go on socials, attract the people who I want to attract, and then go from there.
Right. So then how long did it take for you to do your first deal?
I would say it was, my first deal from social media or my first deal in general?
Both.
Let's do both. Okay.
Yeah, we'll do both.
So I think that one of the pros that came from being very active on social media and consistent is that other agents who were more established saw that and sort of gave me credibility, or I guess rated me for doing that. So my first deal was actually a referral from another agent. He didn't have the bandwidth to take on the clients. He was doing too much driving. He said, hey, look, I know that you're very knowledgeable and I trust you. Yep. I want to refer you these clients. So that was probably about 6 months in. And if I didn't have my social media platform that I did, even though I didn't have too many followers, I probably wouldn't have gotten that referral, and it would have went to probably a more established agent. The first client I got, they had reached out to me maybe like 6 to 8 months in, and they said, hey, look, I love the value that you provide. When I'm ready to buy a house, I'm going to reach out to you. A few months later, they said, hey, look, we're in the process of getting pre-approved. And then when they got pre-approved, they reached out and said, hey, look, we're ready to buy a house. And to me, that was just like, I was shocked, because I was like, oh yeah, she's reaching out to say she's going to buy a house, but they might go use another realtor. Right. They're saying they're going to go get pre-approved. They might go work with, someone that the mortgage broker referred down the line. And then they came back to me and we worked together. And it was like, that was my aha moment where I realized that social media was a legitimate lead source, because I just really went on social media to provide value. And because I was an athlete in the past, a lot of people saw me as a volleyball player and not as a realtor.
Right. Yeah. And when you're doing your social media post now, are you putting some funds behind that to kind of get some traction on it? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then I think, and so this is the follow-up question as well too, is people get focused on the likes. What are you focusing on in those social media posts?
That's great. And you bring up something that I'm really passionate about is we have to treat real estate like a business, right? Yeah. We have to spend money in order to make money. Yeah. So when I first started gaining a bit of traction, I injected, let's say, about $5,000 into ads, which is essentially pushing my content onto people's feeds and hopefully getting them to become followers and then converting them into clients or having them refer their friends or family. So I did that, and I got, I think, 3 or 4 deals the next year from new followers who had never known who I was before, and they weren't in my sphere, which is really exciting. So then the following year, I think I did maybe like 15,000, and then maybe 30,000, and then closer to 50,000. But the ROI on that in ad spend per year. Okay. So I'm just going to continue injecting funds into my business until I no longer see that ROI. Right. But I went from maybe 1 deal from social media to maybe 5 to 15 to 30 to about 40 something, right? So the majority of my business does come from socials. And if you're in the real estate industry, you understand, you're spending 40, 50K for your ads, but the ROI on that is a no-brainer.
Right.
You asked me, the metrics that I focus on.
Yeah.
So a lot of agents are so caught up on both likes and followers. Mm-hmm. Your follower count does not matter. And I find that a lot of agents go to these third-party platforms to increase their following, but that doesn't necessarily increase your credibility, right? You want to put out quality content. So I focus on the saves and the shares in the comments for a few different reasons. I focus on the comments because if someone is engaging with my content in that way, that shows that it provided value to them to some extent, or there was something that I put out and I didn't necessarily elaborate on a point enough. So someone might be asking, what's the monthly payment for that? And then another person makes the same comment and a third person. So then I realized, I should start putting out more content similar to this because this is something that's on the top of people's minds. If they're commenting their friends or family members, again, they see enough value in my content to share it with their family members, which tells me that what I'm putting out is really good quality. Right. Then I focus on shares. If people are sharing my content, that tells the Instagram algorithm that my content is good enough that people want others within their sphere to to be exposed to it. That will then in turn have Instagram push my content onto other people's timelines that don't follow me. Right. And then same with saves. At the end of the day, social media, all of these platforms are fighting for people's attention. So if I'm putting content out there and people are saving it, that's telling Instagram that people are going to continue to be on the app because of the content that I'm putting out, which will therefore further push my content out to others.
Got it. So then the other important step that you're probably doing as well too is sliding into people's DMs. Now, for anybody who may not know what that means,
yes,
right? I'm sure the younger generation definitely gets that.
Yeah.
But what does that mean? Sliding into people's DMs.
100%. So there's no point in being active on social media if you're not having conversations with people. So right. DMs is essentially a direct message where you're having a one-to-one conversation with one of your followers. When I first started, and this is something I recommend to all new agents who are using social media, when someone engaged with my content, I would send them a direct message and say, hey, thank you so much for engaging with XYZ. Is there anything that you want me to elaborate on? Are there any questions that you have? So I would start having a conversation with them in the DMs, and say they said, I want to know how much money I need to buy a $500,000 house. I would then create a piece of content addressing what they had requested, and then I would send it to them directly to acknowledge that, hey, look, I am listening to what you're looking for, and I curated a piece of content to cater specifically to your needs. After that, then they typically feel like, oh, wow, she went out of her way to do this. Let me share it on my story. And that's when you sort of naturally start to grow on that front. So that's one way that I leverage my DMs when I first started. Yep. I think that a lot of agents, when their social media platform starts to grow, they use third-party platforms like ManyChat and all of those things. I personally do not like to automate my DMs because it takes away sort of the human touch and the genuineness, I feel, of the entire thing. So now DMs, I typically only respond to DMs that get sent to me, but that's because I have an influx of DMs. I might be getting between 30 to 50 people messaging me a day, and I don't have the bandwidth to then go reach out to, 30, 50 other people because they say, hey, I'm looking to do this, and then you have that conversation on that front.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And I'm the same way as well, too. Like, I haven't automated any of my stuff like that. I just want to talk to them, and I want to build that relationship with them. And it takes time to build that relationship. And I think people don't realize that, like, well, I'm not getting anything. Sometimes it takes, how long would you say, a year and a half before somebody wants to maybe potentially do business with you, right?
Yeah, I would say that's very accurate. I would also say that a myth that I think a lot of agents who are anti-social media push is that it takes a long time to convert some of these leads. A lot of the leads who connect with me, they've been following me for a year, 2 years, 3 years, and have never engaged with me. And now they feel like they're in a position where, from watching my content and saving, etc., that they are ready to purchase. So it is not uncommon for me to have someone reach out to me and have them transact within the next 2 months. Right. And that's because I have been educating them for so long and they're so knowledgeable that they're now in the position to transact and they're reaching out to me. Now, don't get me wrong. I do still have the leads who are 1 to 2 years out. But I would say it's more common to have people who are more ready to transact than not. Right. I would also say, when we're going back to the DMs, a lot of realtors, they see agents who are successful on social media getting clients, but they think that they have to be transactional in the DMs and only talk about real estate. I would say more than half of the one-to-one conversations I'm having with people are about personal stuff. So yesterday I posted that I'm working out training for High Rocks. I had so many people reach out, oh, no way, I'm actually going to be in Ottawa doing High Rocks too. We should meet up. So it's like those types of conversations would never happen if I never shared some of my personal stuff. I think a lot of agents ask me, should I do a business page? Should I do personal? I do everything in one. My timeline is strictly business, but then my stories are personal. And I like putting personal on my stories because there's a lot of people who aren't, they don't want to engage in stuff publicly. They don't want to comment on your content, but they want to have that personal conversation with you. So I open that door by enabling people to see the other side of me on my stories.
Yeah, I think they also want to be able to transact with somebody who obviously understands what's happening in the real estate world, but they want to know who you are. Who is Jayden? Does she have a family? What does she enjoy doing? Does she like to play sports? Whatever it may be. They want to see both sides of you, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And so right now, for new agent is getting into the game. And I would say we're probably in a difficult market. However, you're crushing it. And there's obviously real estate agents out there that are crushing it as well, too. Yeah. would you say to them that now is a good time to get into real estate as a realtor?
I definitely think it's a great time. I mean, it really just comes down to mindset. I got my license during COVID when tons of agents were getting their licenses, right? And I'm going up against, like the Garys and people who have a lot of skin in the game. So as a new agent, I think that it really comes down to mindset. If you believe that you're going to be a top agent and you're able to provide value and you're going to put the reps in, then it doesn't really matter what market you're in, you're going to see success. And I think that one of the main things is surrounding yourself with people who are successful and have abundance mindsets. Because a lot of the time, a lot of the agents I surround myself with, they're top 1% agents, right? Yep. And then, I go to these real estate events and the agents are like, oh, the market sucks. Everything's so slow. We can't get clients. And I'm like, I don't even want to go to these events anymore because I feel like everything is so doom and gloom, but there's so many opportunities in the market. Yep. But it's your job as an agent to find the value, extract it, and then present it to your database, to your people. Because if people don't see opportunity, then they're not going to want to make a move, right? So as a new agent, I would say definitely stay on top of market stats. It's one thing to post social media content. It's another to have that lead reach out to you, ask you live how the market is, and be able to actually have a good conversation, educate them on what's going on, right? Yeah. So know the market, surround yourself with good people, and invest in your business. This could be invest in coaching, invest in creating a brand, because people want to transact with those who they know, like, and trust. And I like social media because people can feel like they know me, like me, and they can trust me through me literally standing in my backyard recording content, right? That's what I would say is my advice.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. I think mindset is probably the most important piece of skill set that you can actually add to your toolbox. It's so important. That's probably the very first thing that I got first was the mindset piece. The skill set, you can learn that along the way, but the mindset to believe in yourself in any market, whether it's good or bad, you got to get that right. The other thing as well too is that realtors that got into the game during the game when it was like at its peak and all you had to do was list the property below whatever
price.
It didn't matter. You could as long as you listed it at a price and you didn't have to educate yourself because you knew that you're going to get 5, 10, 15, 20 offers. There's no skill sets in that. And then now, because you've actually got to sit down with a seller and figure out what the proper price is, and now you get an offer and the offer is lower and you got to negotiate and you got to ask the right questions to also get the right information that you need to use to your advantage to then get the best price for your client. That's a whole different level of skill sets there. And I think now is the time, like you're saying, for a beginner realtor to get in to learn what it really takes to be a successful realtor.
100%. And that's why, like you said, mindset. Yeah. I always tell new agents, if you cannot handle your own emotions and help other people manage their own, this is not the industry for you. You need to have tough skin. You need to be able to problem solve. There's going to be a lot of shit that goes sideways. And because you're the face of the transaction, you're the one who's going to have to be handling all of those issues, right? Yeah. So it's really interesting. Like I said, I got my license during COVID. I've been talking to agents who've been in the industry for 20, 30 years, and they hate this market. Of course, I'm not the biggest fan of it, but they're like, this is the worst market I've seen for sellers. The conversations we're having are ridiculous. And for me, it's like, I just had my best year I've ever had, last year. So I think it's just, again, surrounding myself with the right people. And I am okay with getting rejected, right? So when I first started, I looked for the top 25 agents in Durham, and I reached out to them and asked them to have conversations with them. And only 3 of them got back to me.
Okay.
Right? But it's like 3 of them got back to me, 2 of them I coordinated something with, and it was great. So it's like, you just need to get your reps in, put yourself out there, get used to hearing no. And the ironic thing now is, fast forward 5 years, the other 20 agents who didn't want to talk to me, they're wanting to talk to me now to pick my brain about social media, right? So it's funny how things come full circle.
And so what were you doing in those conversations? Were you just going out and having coffee with them or a drink with them and then just asking them what they did to be successful, to be a top 25 realtor in Durham?
Yeah, that's essentially what I did. But I had my questions. I was asking them, what podcasts do you listen to? What books do you read? Who's your coach? Have you ever had another coach in the past? Why didn't that coaching work out? Do you invest in real estate? What are the things you learned from your investment properties? What's the biggest thing you've learned from a transaction? So I was very intentional with the questions that I asked. And I learned just a lot from those agents. But the thing is, A lot of successful agents, time is money. They're not all going to say yes to you. The same way now, agents reach out to me. And if I don't see someone who's consistent in putting in the work, I'm not going to give my time to them, because I'm tired of giving my time and energy to agents who pick my brain and then they don't do anything actionable with the information I gave them, right? I don't want the information I'm giving falling on deaf ears. But if someone reaches out to me, they give me their backgrounds, I look at their social media or whatever it is that they're doing, and I see that they are a hard worker, I will 100% entertain what they have to ask, because I'm a big believer in, putting the ladder out and helping other people come up with me as I continue to go up.
Yeah, it's a good point. One of the things that I love doing at this level of the game is when people do reach out to me, and obviously I got to take a look at my schedule and how busy I am. But if I've got the time and I see that they're actually putting in the reps and they're putting in the work, like you said, I am more than happy to sit down and have a coffee with them. And I am a complete open book, because most of the time, like you're saying, you'll give that information to people, but they don't even use it. But if I see somebody who's hungry, I will give them my time, my energy, and I love to see, like, there's nothing better than seeing somebody take that information and succeed with it. That is like one of the best paybacks that you can get in life, is seeing somebody take that and say, thank you, Jayden. Thank you, Gary. Thank you, whoever, for taking the time to sit down with me and sharing that, because it changed my life.
Yeah, exactly. I don't even know if you remember, my cousin connected you with me my first year of real estate, right? So I appreciate you taking the time, because the thing is, there's a lot of agents out there too. We are open books, but a lot of agents are not. Right? So you have to find the right agents who will be willing to share their information with you. But I think that's invaluable, right? Reach out to people who are in positions that you want to be in, who understand the game and who can teach you about their mistakes, because that will help you fast track your success, right?
Yeah, agreed. Now, what about a new realtor getting into the game and they don't have the confidence? How do you build that confidence in the beginning when you don't have the skill sets yet, right? Like, how do you have that first listing appointment? How do you have that first time going out with a buyer? What would you recommend or do?
Yeah, so it's actually so adorable. I was going through all of my stuff last year, just like my notebooks and stuff. I had probably like 5 notebooks full of me. I would go on YouTube and binge watch people's listing presentations, buyer presentations, reading their presentations, and taking the things that I like and didn't like. So get the reps. If there's agents in your market who aren't open to sharing these, gems with you, go seek out other markets and see what those people are doing, and then put your own little twist on it. So I would definitely recommend YouTube, watching people, like how they do stuff, listening to podcasts, right? There's a lot of podcasts that are GTA focused that get very granular with stats. And if you're not confident with your stats, that's a big issue, because your job is to know the numbers in order to guide your clients accordingly, right? So I think that by watching other people do what it is that they do and understanding their talk paths and knowing my stuff, that's what really helped me get a bit more confident. Now, when we're talking about on video, I was lucky enough to have played sports in my past life, so I am sort of more comfortable than the average person on camera. But what I would recommend to people is definitely start with looking at yourself in the mirror, right? And if you don't want to do that, start by recording voice notes and listening to yourself speak. Listen to your cadence, how you say things, and then tweak from there. But what I will say is, if you're not getting it onto video in today's age, you're setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah. You know what? Unfortunately, you got to put in the time.
It's not unfortunate. You have to put in the time, like anything else in life, right?
Exactly. Yeah. You get 10,000 hours.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember when I sat down and first did my very first podcast. And thankfully, they gave me all the questions, and I actually wrote down all the answers. Now, this is before video, and I actually read every single question that they asked, and my answers were there. That's how nervous I was. But you actually just have to put it in. You got to put in the work, and you're right. Fortunately, you got to put that work in, and there's nothing else that you can do except work hard, put the time in, and get yourself in front of the sellers or the buyers. Exactly.
And what I will say too is, I think that this is a big gem for me. When I first started, I actually gave half of my commission away to another agent because I didn't know how to take on a listing. So I said, look, I have a listing. I have the contract signed. I just want you to help guide me through everything, and I'll give you half of my commission. So that agent literally took over the entire thing. I said contract signed. we had, I had the listing locked down, but I needed them to walk me through the paperwork. I wanted to learn their talk path. So I learned how to do listing paperwork. I learned about, installing a lockbox and just like photography and literally everything. And I wouldn't have thought of those items if I didn't have that agent on. And of course, if agents aren't making money off the transaction, they might not be as invested, as if they were. So I think that's a great gem, is just to be open to splitting your commission for both your buyer and first seller in order to get an understanding of how it works. Because at the end of the day, we do have a fiduciary obligation to take care of our clients, right?
What about for a beginning realtor? Do you think that they should join a team or to try to do it on their own? Because you brought up a good point where you're saying, hey, look, I brought another realtor on. I gave up half my commission to help me with the listing. Do you think they should maybe join a team to learn before maybe going on their own, or maybe they want to stay on a team? What are your thoughts on that?
So I was never on a team. I think I tried to go on a team, but they didn't take me, but that's another conversation.
Okay.
But everything happens for a reason, right? So I knew that I'd be able to get my own business. And after running the numbers with the brokerage split and the team split, the math just didn't make sense for me. So if you're someone who can get your own business and you're confident, you can definitely do it on your own. A lot of brokerages do offer mentorship programs where you can reach out to an agent if you have a question about a transaction. But if you're someone who you feel like you need a bit more hand holding, or you don't think you're going to get your own leads, I do think that joining a team would be a good option for you. Yeah. I would say the only drawback of me not starting a team is that, or joining that's on my mind too, but joining a team is the fact that I didn't necessarily get a blueprint, right? A lot of teams, they have their systems in place. You understand their systems. And because I wasn't on a team, I didn't necessarily get that. I was sort of taking from Gary and taking from Michael and taking from Nick what I could. But yeah, I'm happy with the way that I did it. I would say I think it is beneficial for the average agent to join a team to start, and then sort of go from there.
Okay. What were you looking for after you got your license, to what brokerage to join? Was there anything that you were looking for specifically?
See, this was probably not a mistake. Everything happens for a reason. But I joined a brokerage simply because I didn't have to pay a lot of money, but also I knew a lot of agents at the brokerage. That was literally the only reason why I chose the brokerage.
Okay. So culture and people that you knew.
Culture and then people that I knew, sure. Yeah, and then COVID hit, right? And the brokerage was a little more old school. They didn't have any type of virtual training, and I was a brand new agent. I'm calling the office, no one's answering. So I switched to another brokerage just because they had more assistance virtually. But then I felt like, okay, there's this virtual world, but I'm not getting the in-person camaraderie and support that I was looking for. So then I switched again. So I'm actually on my third brokerage. I think that a lot of agents, they sign with a brokerage just to sign, and then sometimes they feel like they have to stick with that brokerage. I say you just have to look for a brokerage where, like you said, culture, but also as a new agent, you want to have mentorship. Don't focus on the commission splits, in my opinion. You want to focus on who will be able to provide you the most value, maybe who has mentorship programs. And the reason why I chose the most recent brokerage that I'm at is because I wanted to be at a brokerage that had the top agents in my marketplace. And I did that because I do a lot of transactions in my marketplace. And if I have personal relationships with them, it's going to be easier when my offer comes across the table to work with us potentially as opposed to another realtor.
Yeah. So actually a good point that you bring up there. So the culture, I think is important, but also too, when you're talking about the commission split as well, like not to focus on that, because if you do plan on being a top producing realtor, it doesn't matter how fast you get to that cap, right? Like we were saying before, but listen, great points. Any last piece of advice real quick, like under 10 seconds before you wrap up this?
Under 10 seconds. Yeah. I would just say always be yourself. The people that you're going to attract want authenticity. And if you're going on social media or, just not being yourself in interactions, it's going to cause a little bit of a disconnect. So you just want to make sure that you're always yourself. Awesome.
Love it. Great advice. And we're going to continue this conversation and we'll be right back. Awesome.
Cool.
Thank you.